Yes, man. Good morning and welcome to Singles Hangout. Good morning. Welcome to Singles Hangout. This is a brilliant Saturday morning. We're really happy to be here and we're hoping that you are going to be educated, encouraged, and inspired by the time we're done this morning. So, this is Singles Hangout. It's an offshoot of the Health and Wellness series that holds in Foursquare Gospel Church, National Headquarters Church, Lagos in Yaba. And you're welcome to a very exciting episode that we have decided to call My Self Development Plan. Maybe I should say my self development, maybe I should say your self development plan. So, we're talking to young people and we're talking about the fact that we need to have a self development plan. I know one of the first things that we thought about in our course of coming together and thinking about this particular episode was we need to ask ourselves a lot of questions. So, do you have a self development plan? I'm talking to you, Yinka Alabi. I told you I'll talk to you on screen. Do you actually have a self development plan? Moyo, do you have a self development plan? Mr. Afemi, do you have a self development plan? Samuel, do you have a self development plan? You know, it's a seemingly simple question, but it's deep and it does require us to sit back, think, and plan. And so this morning, we're going to take a totally dispassionate and I would say a very honest, brutally honest view of where you and I are in terms of planning our lives, in terms of creating for ourselves a self development plan. So, as we go into this journey, we're going to be throwing up several questions and we'd like you to answer, we'd like you to follow. The numbers to call are going to scroll on your screen shortly, so please take note. I also want you to send messages, and our handles will also scroll on your screens shortly. I'm delighted to have two really great young people in the studio with me this morning. To my left is an amazing young lady, and I call her Fumi. I've known her for quite a while, since she was like this tall. And she's going to be, she's going to co-anchor, she's going to contribute, and she's going to answer some of the questions too. So Fumi Adepotu is on my right hand side, on my left hand side, and to my right is I'll say a man that needs no introductions. His beard introduces him. Is Archer, and he's also going to be co-hosting with us today. We're going to be asking ourselves and answering our questions about self-development. And so, I didn't tell them this, but I'm going to ask them the very first question. And hopefully it will lead into the discussions that we have lined up for us today. So if you can please help me put up the very first question. Now, if you're at home, this question is for you. It sits squarely in your lap. Why? Because everybody, irrespective of where they are in this world, has had several months, if not several weeks, to sit back, literally at home, and say, hey, what am I doing in my life? Because our lives have been shifted, they have been shaken, they have been turned upside down, there's almost total chaos. So it's literally a brilliant time to sit back and say, wow, I need to take a look at my life. I need to actually take a good look at my life. So I'm going to ask you both, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. Did you do a self-assessment of yourself and your life during the COVID lockdown? Should we do ladies first?
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, for me.
Okay, so I kind of did a self-assessment review, during the COVID period. Yes, so I did.
You need to tell us what happened. I mean, so
Okay,
what did you discover?
okay, so I discovered that I had to make, so I'm a businesswoman, right? I own my own business. I had to look for strategies to make my business grow because it was an eye opener to the technology world. That is what is selling now. So, better ways to promote my business, to get in touch with my customers, to make them know that, regardless of the COVID, even if they've got programs or weddings or any of those to attend, we have them covered. We've taken proper precautions. So it was an eye opener for me. Then even at work, right? So it was it brought to my knowledge. It made me sit up, right? It's very easy to get carried away, and just lazing around and just watch every day go by, right? And so I had to do, okay, this is the schedule, this is what I have to do today. It helps to put me on track because before you can say Jack Robinson, it's 6 o'clock already and the whole day is gone, and then you're not profitable. Then spiritually, you know, so at the beginning, maybe I didn't pay much attention to it because before the lockdown, I had said, I want to spend more time with God. I want to read my Bible, study the Word, get very, very tight with God. And then the opportunity came, like I had it on a platter of gold, and I realized that at some point I wasn't using it. So it was procrastination at setting, right? And I would always procrastinate and say, you know what, and let me just do small. There's still time. But when I actually took out time to assess every part of my life, I realized that, you know what, if I don't probably do it very early in the morning or actually create a particular time and be intentional about it, in fact, probably spiritual life, intimacy with God would probably decrease, So yes, I did, and I think it was very important. And I would actually advise, if you haven't done it, it's really not late.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. Totally, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. Okay, thank you for being put on the spot a bit. Acha, so tell us your own experience.
Okay. So just like Fumi had mentioned already, okay, she's a businesswoman, and then I'm partly, of course, I'm a businessman too. Okay, that has been like the norm, yeah, before COVID and during COVID, when there was like nothing coming in for some people. But that's beside the point right now. So I did my self-evaluation. Of course, I'd always had I have a book plan, so that encompasses everything I think I want to be in future, and I just set it next 5 years. And so what I did during COVID was to do a review. Like I have a weekly review of, okay, how I've come, and then from where I was, and what is where I intend to be. But COVID was like a different period entirely, because of course people were not allowed to go out, and yeah, so it's a time to do like a deep reflection, not just a surface one, a deep one, because I'll be home today, I'll be home tomorrow, and probably next tomorrow, and stuff like that. During the start of COVID. So what I did particularly for me was to see how, which is something that is going to be the norm going forward, is people are not going to be leaving their spaces anymore. You get to a point that you don't need to go anywhere to get what you want. Yeah. So, but I'm like a middleman most of the time, so I get stuffs to people that need those items. So I was thinking that, okay, now in times like this, you are not allowed to go out. Okay, what are the other ways you can still render your services and still not be there particularly? How can I do these things and I don't necessarily need to leave the confines of my home or my room? I just have to be there, and things will still be working out as they ought to. And I found that there were several ways that those could be done, and which was very, very profitable for me. And then secondly was, of course, she spoke about spiritual life. That is very key. Okay, that is very key. For some people, you may not like rub it around, you may not be a pastor, but the thing is that your daily life should show who you truly follow. Okay, if you follow Christ and all of those. So it gave me a time to really reflect and say, okay, what is God teaching us during this period? What is God trying to show us during this COVID period? And for me, I discovered that it's a time to really fall back and seek God more, and seek God. If you were on 2% with God, this period should take you to, like, you should be flying, like, say, to 10% or thereabout. Because you have so much time to really reflect on the world and go back and really seek deep understanding. And then the third one was as regards my career. Okay. What do I need to know going forward? Okay, what are the new things I need to introduce to my life that would make times like this, even when they happen again, which I don't know, but I know times like this will still come. Okay, but when they come, what are the things and the skills that I've held that I know? Because most times you may not be always there for people. You may not be able to go all out there for people, and then but you still need to make income. You still need to be relevant in your field, in the things you do. So it helped me to look at series of courses that I can actually learn. And of course, right now tech is top notch. It's just at the height of it. Series of courses that I can learn and how they can position me, maybe not necessarily in the labor market, but how this upskilling can help me stand out when it comes to getting jobs and all of those. Because going forward, I tell you, this time many people took this time to really work on themselves. Yeah. And so if you are left behind and you are still where you used to be, I tell you, this ship will just sail, and before you know, you just be like, wow, I wasted all this time and there was nothing to show. So that's just part of the things I did. There's so much more, but...
Okay, fantastic. Now, my question, and I think my question is directed to everybody out there who has gone through this same COVID time, and you can't quite put a finger on how you have developed yourself. And I don't mean future tense, I mean past tense. I'm looking at Samuel, I'm looking at Laulu, I'm looking at lots of young people in my space. I'm looking at Muyo, and I'm saying to myself, did you, at the beginning of COVID, sit down, sit back, assess yourself, and say, this is my self-development plan? I don't know how long COVID is going to last. It may be a week, it may be 2, it may be 3, it may be 4, but nonetheless, I'm going to set up a self-development program for myself. And we're throwing that question out to you. If you're out there and you have developed a self-development plan over the course of the last few months, and you would like to share that with us, fantastic. The numbers scrolled on your screen just a minute ago. Please send in a text, a WhatsApp message, or you can actually even call in and share that with us. But for some of us who haven't, the question is, do you have a self-growth plan? And it's a very personal question. It's not a question that anybody can answer for you. Your parents can answer for you, your brother can answer for you. It's a question that you must answer for yourself. So I'm looking at Moyo, I'm looking at Samuel, and I'm saying, do you actually have a self-development plan for yourself? Because if you don't, you're like a ship. I mean, he made mention of a ship that's sailing without any sense of direction. And so it's critically important for all of us to take careful note of the steps that we're going to try and outline in the course of today's session on self-development, and pick up those actionable steps that will help you to set up a self-development plan. Now, we're going to drive with a lot of questions and some concepts. So, one of the first things I like to talk about is a concept called self-leadership. And it kind of undergirds all of what we're going to talk about this morning. I found a definition somewhere that says this about self-leadership. I'll read it. It first defines leadership, and it says leadership is the ability to influence people in order to get things done. Meanwhile, self-leadership is the ability to consciously influence your own thoughts and behaviors in order to achieve your personal goals or an organization's objectives. Self-led people, they take their own decisions and they set their own personal targets. Now, in the light of that, the responsibility for what happens in your self-development space is yours. It's yours. It's yours. It's mine. It's totally it's in my jurisdiction. If Moyo doesn't develop more than where he is today, if Laulu doesn't get better, if Fulu doesn't get better, if all of us don't get better, the responsibility lies squarely with us. So we need to get into that space where we enter into the space of self-leadership. And I'm going to talk about, a couple of different triggers that will help us to, take that space and own it. And I like to start with a passage of scripture. I love this scripture because it's loaded with insight. It's taken from Luke chapter 15. I like to start reading from verse 17. And for some of us who've read that story before, it's the story of the prodigal son. Or the prodigal daughter, if you so want to choose that. And the scriptures say of this young man who had wasted his money. So he had plenty of money, plenty of resources, and he wasted it on riotous living. And at this point in time in his life, he was feeding swine somewhere out in a field. So he had time to himself. He actually had time to himself. And the Bible in verse 17 says, he came to himself.
Yes.
Meaning there was nobody there with him. He was alone. But I like to say, he came to himself. He sat in a place which I'm going to call, for purposes of this discussion, self-awareness. He came to a self-awareness space. Now, for those of us who are familiar with the scriptures, we know that it's the scriptures, it's the Holy Spirit that brought this about, that helped him to, like we would say, his head became as it was. Correct.
Or
Complete. So he came to himself. And in this space of reflection and self-assessment, several things happened. And so I'm going to start by talking about, I'd like us to start by talking about self-assessment. Some leadership call it self-awareness, right? And once again, I'm going to pose trick questions to my two panelists here. Because I think in the course of COVID, a lot of us came to a certain sense of self-awareness and a certain sense of self-assessment in the course of COVID. So I'm going to ask you, just like as I'm asking people who are at home watching us, when you did a self-assessment during COVID, honestly, what did you find of yourself? I know it's you're not pointing fingers at anybody. You're basically saying, oh, COVID has thrown up several issues. I may be out of a job. What skills do I have for making more money? My father may be out of a job, so maybe he can't pay my school fees. I mean, there were so many permutations. So the consequence of the crisis, did it bring about a self-assessment for you? Is my question. And if it did, if you're willing to share, and I encourage those of us who are watching from home to also share, did you do a self-assessment in the course of COVID? Did you take a close, critical look at yourself, at your abilities, at your opportunities, and then take the next step? But let's just stop at this self-awareness space. So I'm not going to ask for me first this time. I'm going to start with Acha.
Yeah. Okay. So I did a self. It indeed brought me to a point of self-awareness. So, but the first thing I looked at was. So I sat down at home for the first 1 week. I had stuff to do, but of course I could not do them. Yeah, and it was a pointer that, man, you're not ready for the future. You're not ready at all. Because while this was happening, putting all things equal, of course the God factor is a constant. Okay. Yeah, but we know, of course, now that we serve God intently in our heart, deeply. But there are some things that we must go out and do for ourselves. And part of those things is getting knowledge, getting knowledge and seeking deep understanding as regards issues that we face. So what this actually did for me was, it helped me see beyond what tomorrow may be, but helped me look deep into what the future would hold for how work will be done going forward. So, and what I did, just like I said, was, just like we know, there's so many people that sit in the confines of their home and they make so much just by consulting via Zoom. And like during this period of COVID, people were doing meetings and they're being paid big money. But for people that need to be present on site to really get things done, we know that, man, nothing is coming in for you. So those are part of the things he did to me. And just like I mentioned before, so it helped me set a plan, which I already had before. But of course, sometimes when we go to some point, we want instant change sometimes. I want to be able to see changes after 3 months. Most times you may not see those changes after 3 months. But I tell you, subconsciously, those changes are taking place beneath you. You may not really see them. But sometimes we now deviate from our plan and say, okay, I need to go after what is really in vogue right now. What are people doing? Let me just start learning. We just keep drifting from knowledge to knowledge, and these things, because we've not owned a skill truly. We become jack of all trade. And when it is time to be tested and you are presented with deep challenges that requires experience in that field, you don't have it because you've not stayed for so long. So what it helped me do is, brother, you need to be stayed on a field, irrespective of what is going on around you. You say, it's Bitcoin today, you jump to Bitcoin. It's Forex today, you jump to Forex. Just stay on a field and become a master there. It may take you so long, and which is what I'm doing currently. It may take you so long, but you stay there. And these are the things I found out. Stay there and become a master. And know this thing inside out, that if they wake you and you are sleeping and say, what is this? You can, while sleeping, you can still tell them that this is what it is. And you'll be sure that what I told you is correct. So, and that was what it did for me. That's what it did for me. So I tried as much as possible to not be dwindling, because it's very easy now. You see, there are so many things now, like they are booming, and you'll be like, wow, I need to join here before it leaves. Funny enough, when you join is when the thing just stops. So, but what it helped me is to be stayed on a particular tech skill that I'm still building currently. And then, of course, it's helping me still move forward.
Okay. I wrote down something and I said, have you had a conversation with yourself, an honest conversation with yourself that tells you, wow, these are my skill gaps. These are the things, this is where I honestly need to work on. And you know, for me, the story of the prodigal son is so interesting because that self-assessment changed completely the trajectory of his life. And so we must, in looking at self-development, create opportunities to self-assess ourselves because it's in that space that we can also begin to self-lead. And I think it's extremely important. So that conversation that the prodigal son had with himself created self-awareness, created actually a trajectory for him to move forward. And I think that's important. And it kind of takes me to the next question, which I'm going to start with for me, is this. In this self-assessment, you will discover, if you're honest with yourself, whether you have a vision for your life or you don't. So I'm going to ask you, as I'm asking everybody at home, do you have a clear vision for your life? I mean, is it clear to you what you're supposed to be all about here on earth? Because one of the things that self-assessment will do for you, Brother Femi, is that it will tell you whether you're in the right direction or not. The prodigal son immediately knew that he was in the wrong direction. He was going in completely the wrong direction. His vision for life had misroad. So, so vision. Question. Flowing from our first question, you sat back, you did the self-assessment. Well, can you honestly say that my vision for life is clearer? Or do I actually even have one? You know, just tell me, share with me about what your thoughts are.
Okay, so I think even talking about vision for life is still a whole lot, right? How about, let's even start with, what would God have us do in this season? Because at every phase and at every point in time, we're in seasons. So for me, yes, so I probably would want to do certain things at certain times, right? But I also, there's room for checking, you know. So if I say, oh, I want to do this particular thing at this point in time, if I don't check with the Holy Spirit, I'd probably miss it. You know, so I might be working so hard, but yet I'm doing the wrong thing. You know, so there's a point, or many times I feel like I'm not sure if, you know, moving forward in my business, you know, because definitely we experience like some downtimes, you know, and yes, which brings me to why it's very important to surround yourself with people that will actually help you. So have a mentor, right? And have people that, like we spoke the last time, you know, that would encourage you. Because there are times when I'm like, you know what, I just really want to shut this down. But after checking and I see, oh, this month, this profit is not, or I probably did not make it, I did not make a profit. I might just want to, you know, close everything down. But when I check, and then I probably check with my spirit, and, you know, there's this. So my idea, let me share with you. It sounds a bit, you know. So I'm a makeup artist, right? And so I do ushering and quite a number of things. But for the vision for the makeup artistry is, I want to own my own brand, you know, make my own products, you know, and then that seems like it's very far, and I don't know how soon, you know, that can happen, but it's big time. You know, I want to own this very big building. It's beauty all encompassing, you know, how you can take care of yourself and still maintain your natural, you know, beauty and stuff. So it's a whole lot, but that's the vision, right? But then there are stages and there are phases to it. So I just check at every point in time, or divide it, because if I just look at that, I need to also break it down to see, okay, what are the things and what are the steps I need to take to actually attain the vision. So for me, it's know the season you're in, right? Break it down. Speak to people in your field, that can actually help you. Get spiritual people to help you, right? That's why we have elder ones in church. Maybe not everybody, but they're quite a number that can actually be of help to you. So for me, it's know the season, get people that can help you, not just spiritually, but that are also good in your field. They can always give you advice, right? Which would many times save you from making a loss or making, there's this thing they say, we learn from our mistakes, but many times we do not actually have to make those mistakes. Some of them can be avoided. That's why you have people that have gone through it, and they would actually help you. So, I guess.
Cool. I am pretty certain that there are many people who probably picked up a couple of things from that. You may have spent the last few months in limbo, kind of just floating, waiting for things to open up. But I think it's critically important that we all realize that we need to have a life vision. You need to have an overarching goal. You need to have big goals. And one of the things she said, which I think is paramount and important, is that oftentimes our goals should draw from someone higher, more experienced than we are. For many of us, that's God. And if you don't have a relationship with Him, a living, vital relationship with Him, we invite you to come to church and to Jesus. And that's something that you can do. Just keep following, and somewhere in the course of this YouTube page or the YouTube channel, you will find an opportunity, to hook up to the vision of God. God's big, overarching vision sucks us into His purposes and His plans. But like she also said, there are people that God has placed within our circle of influence who can help us. We can literally stand on the shoulders of mentors, and we can become much better, learning from their mistakes, learning from their experiences, so that we become better and obviously broader, not having to make the same mistakes that they made. But you see, once you've taken time to self-assess, once you've taken time to link into a vision, you must run with it. You must run with it. Now, I think the last few months and COVID have given many of us a very clear understanding of whether or not we have used the time that we had effectively, if we were diligent in the things that we could have done in this period. And it drills down to the next thing. It's great to become self-aware of your weaknesses, your faults, your failures, of what is sometimes called skill gaps. Samuel, at the beginning of COVID, was just trying at cameras, right? But in the last month or so, he has been able to practice and practice. Every Saturday, there's an opportunity to practice. He's gotten better. And so he can probably say that his skill level has moved from A to C or D in the course of this past 1 month or so. But you see, for each of us, if COVID and self-assessment gave us an opportunity to take a critical look at ourselves, then we must have run with the vision to have results. So, since we're driving with questions, there are certain things that are key. For those who are clear about their vision and have linked up to God and have a purpose and a plan for what they want to achieve with their lives, there's a logical next step in developing a self-awareness, a self-development plan. And it's action. And I'd like to qualify that action. So let me borrow again from your experiences. And if you're home and you have experiences, that journey that you've taken between when COVID started, you're understanding the fact that things have changed and you need to acquire more skills or hone the skills that you already have. And moving from that point of recognition of self-awareness to a skill level or mastery level that is much higher. What happened in between? What was your experience?
Oh, okay. Firstly, we know that change is very, very, it's quite difficult for people to seriously adapt to. So there's a need to constantly want to remain at a particular level. You may be complacent and say, I think I've arrived, let me just plateau here, and you think that's the height that you can get to, but seriously, there are so much levels that you can get to as well. And then, so for learning, most times, there are points you get to is as if you're not learning anything again. It's as if you know so much already and you don't need to learn anything. But the world we are in currently is how information changes so fast. Okay, what you have today, and then you decide to dwell on that. By tomorrow, you are 20 years behind, because it moves with lightning speed. So, but for me, of course, it has been so challenging, because to be sincere, I had to learn a couple of things. Yeah, as a young man that's trying to grow his business and understand more of business, it means finance is key. Okay, so and I don't have the slightest knowledge about that. So I had to go back and get courses and that can help me, learn a bit about that. Not like learn so much, but there is some that say know a bit of everything and know so much of one thing. Yeah, so because of these, just like you made mention of skill gaps, I need to be able to do some financial analysis and say, okay, this is what I should be expecting from here to here. Okay, profit margin, how do I get to calculate that? How can I increase my profit margin? All of these were questions that were popping up in my head. Of course, after I've seen several, I've watched several lectures online and all of those. So these are the things. But for me, the switch was so challenging because, with somebody that does not have any background on finance, and now you have to start learning about it, it becomes quite difficult. But I was still pushing. I was still pushing, and of course now I can say to some point there are some times you mention, and I'll just yes. It brings some sort of understanding and relief that you can understand these things. And then aside that too, I had to start learning a programming language, and of course that is going to be like a lifelong thing because, just like I said, you don't plateau at a level and say you've arrived. And so we are still building, and I decided to choose a field which is automation. I decided that this is where I'll stay. Even though automation in Nigeria currently is still very low, we are not practicing it yet. But I know that going forward, that's going to be like the hot cake here. And then when that time comes, by God's grace, I will be able to step out and say, yes, I know these things. Okay, so, and that is how I missed several more, but these are part of, but to be sincere, it has not been easy. It has not been easy. Yeah, sometimes you need to stay sleepless nights trying to learn these things, and nobody tends to see you to tell you to clap for you that you are trying very hard. But of course, when the time is right, the claps will come, and then God will help us.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Fumi a couple of questions around this same issue. So your vision is clear, but the scripture says you need to run with it, and what that means might be different from different people and in different circumstances. But I think there's some key pillars that are common across board. I've chosen to pick 3 of them, and I just wanted to speak into that. So the first one is hard work. Now, I don't see how it's possible anywhere for you to pick up a vision, a skill gap, an understanding of a skill, for instance, and not have to work hard in order to actualize moving from, that's a vision of where I want to go, to I've actually reached there. So hard work is critical and important. Something that has filtered through both of your contributions is focus. The need to focus is critically key. I'll take it just once I'm done with this. Critically key. So hard work, focus, and then lastly, so I'll just finish and then you'll take it, diligence. So we have a call. We'll take that call, and then Fumi will address hard work, focus, and diligence. Oh, comment.
Good morning, everyone. Are you okay? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, sir.
Shall I go on?
Please
yes,
do so.
Sir.
Okay, the King Adebake and the panelists, I want to say good job. Believe me, good job. Mine is not actually a question. just a couple of comments in the area of self-development plan, because at the end of the day, one cannot afford to abandon himself or herself to, maybe you are working for an organization, or, in other words, you make it 70-30, 70%, you're looking at the way to develop yourself. And one of the reasons is very straightforward: the rapidity of change. The rapidity of change, e.g., COVID-19, no one expected it. No one expected it, and folding one's arm or waiting for anybody to come and help is as good as waiting for Godot. And it has nothing to do with age, whether you are young or you are old. One of my self-development plan is the ability to respond to change at the speed of light, because technology now is developing at the speed of light. Because COVID-19 suddenly, in our industry, for instance, suddenly shut down brick and mortar training. Are you with me?
Yes.
And if we didn't respond as quickly as possible to change, one would just fold his arm and nothing happens. But as God we have it, He's already in our mentality that anything can happen, any day, anytime. Formerly we were used to just online training. But then here comes virtual instructor-led training, and clients seems to be warming up to that. And as God we have it, a lot of our clients decided also to change, to that kind of platform. So in our self-development plan, we should, as much as possible, in the first top three, responding to change, managing change is very key. I'm being specific now. I'm not leaving it open-ended. I'm being specific. So that is one area. The other one I want us to take note of, and Deacon Adebakin has mentioned it, the issue of self-leadership. And I'm going to say that self-leadership has in it self-regulation and self-awareness. Deacon Adebakin mentioned self-awareness earlier. Then the other aspect of it is self-regulation. Apart from me knowing myself, am I disciplined enough in my self-development? And these two key skills I've just mentioned are part of the 5 or 6 skills of emotional intelligence. So in my own self-development, for instance, emotional intelligence, which is the foundation for self-leading. So I just want to make those couple of comments. The third one may not, I may not readily lay my hands on it now, but do not forget rapidity of change and emotional intelligence. Very key. For me personally, in my self-development, and I keep working on this. And okay, the third one is that learning is lifelong. Let's keep learning and be humble enough to learn, to unlearn, and then relearn. That is also part of what we should, whether we are young or old, learning is lifelong. So also is application of learning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let me take all of your time. I want to say thank you for having me. God bless you.
Thank you so very much. And those are very insightful points, and I hope as many people as heard them will be able to put them into practice. But we need to run. So we have a vision. Some of us have, in this course of COVID, we're clear about what we need to do. But the linkage between the concept and the reality, you would say, need to run on legs. So just really quickly speak to hard work, focus, and diligence.
So we talk about hard work. Yes, we're supposed to believe that we have a goal, and then we're supposed to believe that it would come to pass. But there's a part in the Bible that says faith without work is dead. So which means you need to put in hard work, because even the Bible says He would bless the work of our hands. And so It's what you sow, you will reap. If you do not take out time to work hard, I know for sure that it is not easy. It can be very challenging, right? But when the storms come, we need to know that God is actually there with us, to push us forward. So hard work, very, very key. If you do not work hard, God is not a magician. He's not, is what he says he will do. And so the Bible is the standard, right? And the Bible says, is what you sow, you will reap, and he will bless the work of your hands. So for me, that does it with hard work. You must work hard. You must work hard. Okay, then the second one is diligence is the third year.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the second one?
Focus.
Focus. So distractions all around. Yeah, like Acha mentioned, he said, so today you said Bitcoin, then tomorrow Forex, different things. Not to say that they're not good, right? I can't say they're not good. But what I'm saying is you need to make sure once you make up your mind to do something, you have to be very focused. You have to be intentional about what you're doing, because if you just allow everything that comes by your way swing you all around, you would not even have your, you wouldn't have your balance, you wouldn't have a firm standing. So it's very important that you are steadfast in what you do. Then diligence. So diligence for me is, so like we said, hard work, then focus. So they are intertwined.
Yes.
You work hard, you focus on what you do, then you're diligent about what you do. So it's for me, it's put in all you've got, put in all you've got, and just trust God. That's it for me.
So, for me, and the steps are quite clear, a self-awareness space will give you that ability to understand where your gaps are, the things you really need to make up. Obviously, it makes sense to build competencies in line with a vision. You need to know where you're going, and it makes sense to build competencies. Sometimes in management, there's this ladder up a wall, and people are trying to get up it. And then the question mark says they put the ladder against the wrong wall. So they're going to get to where they're going really fast, but they're on the wrong wall. Yeah. So developing skills and talents in your self-development plan, it's key that you've put your ladder on the right wall, the right vision. But once you have that vision and you're clear about it, focus, diligent, hard work is imperative. There's no way you can get, there's just no way. Now for me, the fourth leg is that leg of accountability. Of your setting those goals, those big goals, that big direction, but then being accountable. I come back to the prodigal son. His accountability partner was his father. He said he would come back to his father and say, you know what, I ain't your son anymore. I'm just a servant. So just look at me as a servant, and I'm good with that. And I think it's important for us to become accountable. Now, we may have sat down at home during the course of COVID. We may have come up with brilliant development plans, self-development plans, without necessarily being accountable to anybody. I mean, we may say, okay, I pray, so God sees me. But I don't think that's enough. Yeah. In closing out, today's session, we've identified 4 steps.
I have an example.
I'm going to get to the example. So there are 4 steps, and accountability is one of those things, right? But what I would like us to do, in the 4 steps of developing your own development plan is this. So we'll take the comment, and then we'll hit home on those 4 steps in developing a self-development plan.
Thank you for this discussion. I think there are critical issues that we need to actually put in perspective. We, young and old or mid-age, this is a relevant discourse and a life shaper. For you to actually have a far-flung future of your dream, you need to start today. A number of people think that making money is what will make the future, but rather making yourself is what makes the future. A number of people also pursue money and think that money buys everything, and they forget about themselves. But money vanishes, and then they are left naked. A number of parents also believe in spending their money, enjoying themselves, going to beer parlor, for instance, as we were coming here this morning. So a group of young people early in the morning sit with beer and drinking and having fun. And then the future come as if it's a thief in the night. And they don't have anything to actually take care of what the future is. What my advice to young people is this, and also to everyone listening or watching. The challenges of tomorrow is far bigger than the challenge of today. You must prepare to meet the challenge of that future, the future challenge. Look, today you are just trying to grapple with your daily living, and then grapple with children, grapple with work, and grapple with everything. And then you also forget that investing in the future actually is very, very important than eating up today. It is not the money you put in bank account that buys you a good future. It is the money that you invest either in yourself or in a yielding investment that actually takes care of the future. Also, for people that goes to school, they do not know why they go to school. Going to school is not enough, but even coming out of school, what do you do with it? And when you are out of school, I don't have a job, and you think that, unless you lean on somebody's shoulder before you get a job, start to think that you can also be very, very, impactful to yourself and do something. Those are my pieces, although this is a long thing, but we don't have the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was quite insightful too.
Yes.
Develop yourself is actually what will guarantee your future. It's much more than the money that you perhaps might be making today at the expense of developing yourself. So we're going to take a conclusion, right? 4 actionable steps. I'm going to basically just run through them. But what I would like us to do once I've run through them is for you to say, I want you to add flesh to it. I want you to expatiate a little bit about it, because I think it's important that we all understand that self-assessment is your responsibility, is mine. I need to be self-responsible for my life. Moyo needs to be self-responsible for his life. You shouldn't listen to this and not realize that my life, as it were, and my development rests with me. So these are 4 suggestions, 4 actionable steps. And if you don't mind, you might want to write them down. So, or perhaps you want to record this particular part. 4 actionable steps. So I'll just list them, and then we'll talk into them. Step number 1 is to develop self-awareness. And rather than just do it once off, we've been forced to do it because COVID is here.
Yes.
You need to create a habit of developing a self-assessment, self-awareness space. You need to create a space. I know the Jews, and I read something about it recently, that every Sunday is their self-assessment, self-awareness space.
Wow.
Because they spend time thinking strategically, because they don't have any choice. They are not allowed to work. So they actually spend quality time thinking. Step number 2, actionable step number 2, be clear about your life vision and your goals. Link it up to God's vision. Link it up to God's vision for your life. Step number 3, identify your skill gaps. Many of us actually have skill gaps. I think COVID probably threw up this for many of us. But once you've identified those skill gaps, there's a requirement for you to focus on building those skill gaps, blocking those gaps. And it does require hard work. It does require discipline. It does require consistency. And it has to be driven by an internal motivation that is self-leadership. Step number 4 is regular accountability reviews with a trusted partner or a mentor. Those are the four. So
steps.
I'm going to flip back to the first one. I'd just like to take your parting comments, so to say, perhaps I would say advice. I mean, and in each of these, these steps, there's detail that we may not have all the time to talk about, but let's start with that example. Yes.
I'm just going to pick one, and
Okay.
I'm just going to talk about the having an accountability partner. So while you were talking, it just came to mind, and I know I didn't mention this, before, but when I was growing up, when I was in secondary school, right, I had the Adivakins, check up on me. So then I was a science student, and I was doing poorly and terribly at my sciences. But then I remember the time when your wife spoke to me, and she was like, you can do this. And I thought physics was a whole lot and I couldn't do it. But then she would check up on me every Sunday. And so I knew that I had to show my results to someone. So at that point in time, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do it, because I didn't really understand, the essence of having to do so well, apart from the fact that, my parents were paying my school fees, and so definitely I had to pass. But it did me a lot of good, because it showed me that I could actually do things if I put my mind to it. And with their help, I actually did amazingly well. And so why I came, and then it was great. Do you get? So the space of an accountability partner cannot be overemphasized. Pick one or two persons. It doesn't have to be everybody, in your business. One or two persons, preferably Christians, so they can advise you accordingly. And then I think you'll be good. Thank you.
Okay, so we've done only one out of, of 4 steps. 4 practical, actionable steps. It looks like we're going to have to take this to a second part.
Yeah.
Because we simply have to close right now. We have another program that's coming up immediately after this. So I want you to hold on to those 4 actionable steps. That's where we're going to start from, on our next episode of the self-development plan. And it has to be your self-development plan. So I hope you take time out to hook up to God and to His vision for your life. And if you haven't done so, great time to do so. Now is a fantastic time to do so. And if you have, and you are home, and you have looked at the last few months, and you realize that you have done absolutely nothing with developing yourself, with honing a plan to make yourself better, then this is a great time to think about it. So we're going to close on that note, and we would trust that you will be back with us next week. And we can't actually wait, but don't just wait. Take time to think. Take time to spend time looking at yourself, do a self-assessment, and next week we'll take it from there. Thank you very much for your time. We look forward to having you again next week. And it's over and out from us. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye. Moyo and Samuel, self-development plan.